Hi, and welcome to the Examined Life. And today we're going to be looking at the topic of cognitive dissonance. So, what is cognitive dissonance and how does it relate to narcissism? So, if you're new to the topic of narcissistic abuse, this is one of the terms that is part of the jargon regarding this particular disorder. And it doesn't necessarily apply to the narcissist. Cognitive dissonance really applies more to the supply, the narcissistic supply, or the victim of the targeted person of the narcissist. And what it does is it is almost the cement that keeps the narcissistic relationship together, and how should I say it? Everybody who is involved with the narcissist has some level of cognitive dissonance, and that's the reason why it maintains itself, because the people involved don't want to know. So, just for an official definition of what we're talking about here, this is Wikipedia. Excuse me. Wikipedia? It's Wikipedia. Its definition here is: in the field of psychology, cognitive dissonance is the mental discomfort, psychological stress experienced by a person who simultaneously holds two or more contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values. The occurrence of cognitive dissonance is a consequence of a person performing an action that contradicts personal beliefs, ideas, and values, and also occurs when confronted with new information that contradicts said beliefs, ideas, and values. Now, let me see. How it works within the context of narcissism is basically the narcissist will create a persona or facade of who they believe that they want you to believe is them. Usually it's the ones that I've encountered is that they have a face. It's like a mask that they put on, and the mask that they put on is so something so pleasant that they sell you on who they are and what they want you to believe that they are. The reality is they're probably almost exactly the opposite. And when the truth kind of brims over or flows out, or little hints come up that the person isn't what they say they are, then that's when the people who are involved with the narcissist, who want to maintain the relationship, will experience cognitive dissonance. Well, that's not the person I know, and this happens a lot when the good example is when when the narcissist is cheating on their spouse or girlfriend or whatever, and the signs are there, but the spouse doesn't want to believe it, when the evidence is being presented, because it creates a discomfort within them. And the discomfort is usually, it can be many things. Okay. One, for example, is that, let's say they've been married for 10 years before she's seeing the signs of infidelity. She has to really consider, I've been involved with this person for over 10 years. That's time spent. That's an investment of their time. And they, rather than throw the whole relationship away, or how they're needy of this person, they would rather believe the lie. So the fact that the truth, or what evidence of the truth comes up, it has to be, and it causes discomfort to them because it's like they don't want to believe that this person would ever do something that bad. That creates, they would rather believe the lie. So they resolve the situation, or they try to resolve the situation by either willful ignorance, meaning they don't want to know, or they don't want to believe. They'll just kind of turn a blind eye to the lie because they don't want their little worlds disturbed. So this is why narcissism, even though it's a disorder unto itself, the people who get involved with the narcissist and maintain those relationships are just as unhealthy as the narcissist. And they become, they're flying monkeys. And it takes, flying monkeys are created with cognitive dissonance and with willful ignorance. So, if, and I have to admit, I'm going to say, we're all guilty of cognitive dissonance on some level. I remember when I was a kid, my mother had told me, my father's the narcissist in my family mostly. I mean, my mom's kind of narcissistic too, but right now it seems to be my father who's kind of the more dominant narcissist. And when I was a little kid, he was the bee's knees in terms of, he was everything. I looked up to him and everything like that, and before he became abusive. And he actually became abusive a lot later in my 20s. But during the time in my early life, my mom had kind of told me that he was fooling around on her. And I didn't want to believe it. My dad was always the... he preached to me the values of what he wanted me to be doing. But like in the other video, one of those things is what they do and what they say are two different things. And when my mom always said that he was fooling around on her, but she never had any proof. Well, one day, I think I was 14 or so, I needed some tape. And so I went to this drawer that my father had, and I saw him put some tape in there, and I thought, I'll just snatch a little bit of tape. And so I opened the drawer, and I was looking for the tape, and there was this envelope there, and it had this photograph inside, and the photograph was kind of sticking out. And I'm like, when I saw the photograph, I was like, what? And I pulled it out, and it was this picture of him being kissed right on the mouth by this woman that was not my mother. And there was in the back of the, there was inside the envelope there was a bunch of rest of the other pictures. There was a condom in there. But my relationship, the relationship between my mother and my father had gone south a long time ago, so they weren't having sex. And I'm like, it created such a cognitive dissonance within me to think that my father really was cheating on my mother. I didn't want to believe it. And I went through a lot. It was very painful for me because, a part of me died. And that I see and I understand why people do why they dread cognitive dissonance, why they don't want to know. But the truth is that he became very very verbally abusive and emotionally abusive to me in my early 20s. And it was because he was having affairs with other women, other than my mom, and we were sort of in the way. And it wasn't until I got, that was really the first tangible sign that my mother was right, that he was cheating on her. And so, I was 14. I didn't know the term cognitive dissonance, and I didn't understand, all the more technical stuff that was going on. All I know is that what I believed him to be, he was not. And when it shatters something, it shatters your dreams and your vision, and it does alter your life. It impacts your life when you learn the truth about somebody that you thought was upright, stand-up kind of a guy, and really he's not what you think he is. And this happens a lot with people who are preachers and things like that, where they have a very high standard that they have to live up to, and they know they can't do it. And, it's like we've gotten to the point now, I think, in our society when people fall from grace, it's not a really big deal in terms of, I guess, depending on how close you are to that person. And, a good example is the topic of Bill Cosby. I mean, I'm sure that, there's a lot of people out there who say, Bill Cosby isn't guilty, but there's also a lot of people who say that he is guilty. And, I wasn't necessarily somebody who was a avid fan of Bill Cosby, but when they brought the topic up and when they mentioned it, I was like, it wasn't a big deal. It didn't shatter my world when I learned that he did that kind of stuff, or even there was an accusation of it, or what was going on. I just kind of saw it as par for the course because I'm sort of jaded already. When I learned about my father, it kind of woke me up to, after that, there was really nobody else doing it really mattered. Cheating on their wife or whatever. From my standpoint, because my father is the closest person to me who shattered my world and what I believed him to be in terms of cognitive dissonance. Once I finally accepted that he was cheating on my mother, I had to really redefine my relationship with him and grow up a little bit. And there's a death that's involved within ourselves when we have to accept something that, when the facade that the narcissist paints for us dies. That their facades are, we related to those facades. They were people to us. They were masks to the narcissist, but to us they were people. And when when that cognitive dissonance comes in and it rattles and shakes our world, a part of us dies along with that facade because we come to the realization that it wasn't real. And that's very sad, but at the same time, it's one of those types of situations where it's like the phoenix. You go down in flames and then there's a rebirth. In a sense that now you're wiser. You're older and you're wiser that this happens. And people are people. We're all human, and they're going to fall from grace. If you put them on those pedestals, they're going to fall from grace. What can I tell you? And we need to not put people on pedestals. Accept them for who they are, good and bad, and whether they're narcissists or not. There's a metaphysical theory that I have. I don't think that measures up to a theory, but at least a hypothesis regarding how narcissists in our society are, what they're there for, and what they do for us. Okay, it's my own opinion, but for the purposes of this video, I'm addressing cognitive dissonance. That's what cognitive dissonance is, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. It hurts like heck. I mean, it is more than actually discomforting. But the way to get through cognitive dissonance is, if you see something, take note to yourself, write it down in a notebook, and start keeping tabs on things that don't seem right to you about a person, no matter who they are. Your boyfriend, girlfriend, father, mother, whatever. But just make notes to yourself and see how it all adds up. You don't necessarily have to judge anything. Sometimes, because the thing is about narcissism is that it reveals itself over time. And the cognitive dissonance, for it to is when usually a hard blow is dealt to you. the idea that something's going on and there's evidence to support it. So that is the topic for today, which is cognitive dissonance. And it's part of the growth. When you acknowledge that the evidence, acknowledge the evidence. Don't do willful ignorance where you're turning it off or turning a blind eye to anything that arises. Acknowledge it, take a look at it. And if, even though it might be hard for you to accept, it's something you might need to, or at least look further into, whatever the facts are. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll be back with another video pretty soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.